All right, man, peace. So this year is the year for the Golden State Warriors to etch their names in the annals of NBA lore, along with the Chicago Bulls of the Michael Jordan era in the 1990s, the Bill Russell Celtics of the 1960s, and the Shaq Kobe Lakers of the early 2000s. What do I mean by that? They're going for a three-peat. So can they make it happen? We're going to find out. Mr. Steph Curry, the superstar guard of the Golden State Warriors, says that there's nothing wrong with them speaking about a three-peat. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
I mean, we talk about the three-peat just because it's in front of us. I don't think that's something that's repeated every single day. Yes, winning a championship is the goal. How you get there and how you kind of break up that mission on a day-to-day, game-by-game, month-by-month basis is what makes us, I think, great in terms of encouraging each other. We adapt really well, and we don't stay down for too long. So
now, unfortunately, due to the fact that the 73-win Warrior team lost in the finals, and they spent that entire season talking about winning 73 games and talking about winning in the NBA Finals, this year's Golden State Warriors team, they're going to be beset on all sides by reporters asking them if they think that it's okay to be talking about a three-peat before it happens. So I believe that Steph Curry understands that, and that's the reason why he looked a little bit annoyed when he answered the question of whether or not they're talking about a three-peat in the locker room. Of course they are. How could they not be? But what is looming over the mountain, that specter that is looming, are the Boston Celtics. And the only question is right now, will the Boston Celtics be good enough to give the Warriors a run in the finals or maybe even beat them?
We understand that right now winning a championship is attainable if we do take care of our business, and doing it 3 years in a row is a tremendous opportunity for us that we should not be afraid to talk about and go after.
Well, you have to take care of your business and you have to stay healthy.
Got a feeling they might be in the mix. Let's expect first take.
Seemingly everyone already talking about a Warrior three-peat, including Steph Curry. Max Kellerman, is this the toughest road during the Warriors dynasty thus far?
It's difficult to tell right now because we're not quite sure how good the Lakers are going to be, how good OKC is going to be, how good the Rockets are going to be, and in the Eastern Conference, how good are the Raptors or the Boston Celtics going to be, because I think that those are most likely going to be the two teams that will make the NBA Finals, or at least have the potential to make the NBA Finals. We're going to find out. I'm not just going to say that this is going to be an easy run for the Golden State Warriors. This is a team that won 7 games with the Rockets last season in the Western Conference Finals. Yes, they've upgraded. They've added Boogie Cousins, or at least presumably they've upgraded, but you never know. Something may happen in the locker room. They may implode. David West was on record last season as stating that if the media had any knowledge of what was going on in the locker room, that it would have been a major storyline. So it's very obvious that they were able to keep things relatively buttoned up. I think that Boogie Cousins will be on his best behavior because he's not playing for much money. On top of that, he does not want to be known as the guy who blew up the Warriors dynasty. But I think that there is the potential for the Warriors to possibly face some stumbling blocks in the playoffs.
No, not if you include the dynasty pre-Kevin Durant, because they lost to the Cavs. I mean, I like the Celtics a whole lot, and I think that given the fact that they've gone to the finals so often and played so much more basketball, and the Celtics have such a great coach, etc. Let me see how the Celtics look. Maybe I pick them. I got to see how they look early in the season. But
well, really, you should be saying, I want to see how they look at the end of the season. If you're going to change your finals pick based off of how the Celtics look early in the season, well, then damn, you should have picked them last year to win the finals.
But how can you say it's going to be harder than a season that they already lost on their home floor? They were a 73-win team, all-time record. And here's the bottom line, guys. This is the thing about LeBron James. Celtics are a mighty, mighty team right now on an historically great franchise, all those things. Great coach, great players, starting five, bench, the whole thing. Their best player is Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was the second best player by a lot, meaning there was a big distance between him and LeBron on those Cavs team. That's who LeBron.
Wasn't that big of a difference because there was not that big of a difference in productivity out there on the basketball floor. There was not. I don't care what anybody says. LeBron had a great 2016 finals from games 4 to game 7, as did Kyrie. When you compare their numbers, they were very close, especially in regards to impact. They were very close.
LeBron James is. If LeBron James has another MVP caliber player, which he had in Kyrie, and another All-Star in Kevin Love, that is always going to be the toughest challenge. And so if you include the...
Well, I'm not quite sure about that. I'm sure that Max Kellerman will say in the 2017 playoffs, there was only one team to beat the Warriors, and that was the LeBron James, Kyrie Irving team. But let's be for real. If Kawhi Leonard does not get hurt in the Western Conference Finals, those Spurs win at least 2 games in that series against the Golden State Warriors.
The whole dynasty pre-Kevin Durant, obviously, the season in which they already lost the championship on their home floor in Game 7 has got to be considered the toughest. So the answer is no.
I think it is. I think it is. And I look at things a little bit differently. We all know that the year that Cleveland won, I thought the NBA gave Cleveland a stimulus package by suspending Draymond Green for Game 5 after they won Game.
That's not just how you feel, brother. That's how all of us understand that situation to have transpired in the aftermath of the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James basically being engineered or having a situation engineered for them to win that NBA Finals. Basically, the NBA took that whole series and put it on a platter in front of LeBron and said, look, we brought you the food, you better eat it.
On Game 4, they were up 3-1 going back to the Oracle. The series should have been over in 5. Okay, and then
and also they activated that idiot donkey Draymond Green.
Then after that, Bogey gets hurt, Iguodala gets hurt, Draymond.
But let me not go too far on my man Draymond, because in the aftermath of many of the statements that he put forth in episode 1 of LeBron James' show The Shop, I have promised to elevate my level of respect for the brother. So let me reel it back a little bit. But still, what he did in the aftermath of the Golden State Warriors cementing the victory in Game 4 of the 2016 Finals, it was nothing short of asinine.
Draymond Green suspended for that one game. It's just a mess. When you look at it overall, though, here's the reason. When they were making that run, we didn't know what they were going to be. But when the Clippers messed up en route to Golden State's first championship and lost that 3-2 lead to Houston when they gave up a 19-point lead in the third quarter and got outscored like 49-9.
I have news for you, Stephen A. Smith. The Clippers were not going to beat Golden State in the 2015 playoffs. They were not. The Clippers had no understanding on how to play defense against Golden State, and Steph Curry had lit up Chris Paul every time they had played that season.
I mean, that to me was the roadblock for the Golden State Warriors. From that point forward, not to say that it's been easy, but it hasn't been extraordinarily difficult. We all knew that Golden State was going to be in the finals the last 3 years or so. So we got that going on.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, give Golden State credit for coming back from down 3-1 against an OKC Thunder team with 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA at the time, that being Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Give them credit for that. Give them credit for being able to outwill a Houston Rockets team last year that had them down 3-2. Give them credit.
This year is going to be tough, and here's why. I believe the Boston Celtics could beat the Golden State Warriors. I believe that the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors, that's going to come down to whoever has a home court advantage for a Game 7 in an NBA Finals.
Let me say this very quickly. It's the NBA's dream. It's their absolute dream to have Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Golden State and Boston, in Boston Garden, or I should say TD Bank Garden, or whatever they call it out there. That's their dream.
That will determine who's going to win the championship this year. That's how close I think it is. I'm
not quite sure if it's that close, Stephen A. Smith, because had Golden State not gotten Boogie Cousins, I'm sure that you would have made the same prognostication. But with Boogie Cousins, I would still give Golden State the edge in a 7-game series against Boston, even if Boston had home court. But we'll see.
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Golden State Warriors three-peat. I love the fact that Steph Curry is willing to broach it and talk about it, because I love the fact that history has been made already in that regard, and the Golden State Warriors are unapologetic about the fact that that is their mission, and they fully intend to accomplish it.
But Max, what about last year? Down 3-1 to the Rockets. If CP3 stays healthy, Houston...
Well, down 3-2, not 3-1.
I picked Houston to win, and I think that, yeah.
So that was no cakewalk.
When you think about last year, it it took losing one of their 2 MVP caliber players. And that's ridiculous. You take CP3 off the Rockets, of course they don't have a shot against Golden State, right? Except that.
Yeah, well, you took Andre Iguodala off of the Golden State Warriors, the player on their squad that has the highest basketball IQ on both offense and defense. People forget they lost Game 4 down the stretch against the Rockets, really because they had no Iguodala out there. But people conveniently forget about that. This is why people act shocked when two teams have a very tightly contested series that goes 7. They forget that a certain team may have missed a crucial player. Then the next season comes and they pick the team that lost that tight 7-game series to win. And then the same team that won the previous year wins again the next year, only easier because they had all hands on deck and everybody acts shocked.
That. It took an historically bad shooting night. They were like, what, now I'm forgetting, 1 for 27 or 28 or 30 at one point from 3. It's like the worst shooting night of all time.
Right. Once again, Max Kellerman, you're a boxing guy. So you should understand that when a team shoots 1 for 28 or 1 for 30, whatever the number was, from three-point land in a 7-game series, it's because they have no legs. They had exerted so much energy trying to stop Golden State on offense that on defense, they had no legs. And then D'Antoni was using a 7-man rotation. They were done. That's why that happened.
In order without Chris Paul, for the Golden State Warriors to beat them by single digits. I mean, if they have Chris Paul, I don't think they have that kind of shooting night. Or if they just don't shoot the worst ever, and it's not just all defense. Some of it was defense. Some of it was missing wide open shots. They win that game handily. So that was a huge roadblock. I don't think the Rockets will be as good as they were last year. I think they'll have an easier time in the Western Conference than they did last year. Here's why it might get more difficult, Stephen A. Because if you want to point to something, complacency, it's natural. You start to take things for granted. The fact that the rest of the league has time to study you, design rosters to try and counteract what you do.
Right, but Max Kellerman, the rest of the league has had years to study Golden State and what they do. At the end of the day, the Golden State Warriors, they just have too much talent. They have 4, or really now 5, of the top 25 players in the NBA. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they have 5 of the top 25 players in the NBA. And they arguably have 2 of the top 3 players in the NBA. So how are you going to beat that? The answer is you're not.
Played all that extra basketball year after year after year. They're in the finals every single year. It's hard to continue to maintain that energy. Game 7, it's close. The fresher legs might win. Those are reasons to point to why it may be tougher. But it ain't going to be tougher than the year you already lost. You already lost the finals to LeBron James at one point.
Well,
That's tough.
I consider that. I don't want to go as far as sabotage, but we all know what my feelings about that are. And
Thank you, sir. Just by using that word, you are going that far, Stephen A. Smith. You're basically saying that the NBA sabotaged the Golden State Warriors in 2016. That's what you're saying. And I agree with you.
Why did they win Game 7? They had Draymond then.
I don't want to revisit that. I just don't want to revisit it. I'm talking about how the series should have ended in Game 5. I stand by that. Having said all of that, I think that when we look at this Golden State Warriors team, because of how Houston went, Houston was up 3-2 on them. Golden State wins Game 6 and 7 to ultimately win that series. You have to remember that I was always of the mindset. My prediction was Golden State in 7, CP3 or no CP3, despite how great CP3 looked. That was my position.
But there was no CP3.
Well, I'm talking about before the series began. Yeah. I said that Golden State would go into Houston at the Toyota Center in a Game 7 and win that Game 7.
You did say that, sir.
Now, CP3 ultimately got hurt at the end of Game 5, so we'll never know. But I'm saying to you that was my prediction, and I had deviated from it. That's the only reason I'm making that point. My point now is this. I did see Houston with Trevor Ariza, who, by the way, I just saw in Vegas over the weekend. Congrats to him for getting his money with Phoenix. But the thing is, they don't have Trevor Ariza. They don't have Luke Mbah-a-Moute. They still have P.J. Tucker. They still have James Harden, CP3. I remember how Golden State, when Houston was getting physical, it was a little bit uncomfortable for them from time to time.
It was very uncomfortable for them. And that's how you know that if this year's Golden State Warriors team, or I should say this era's Golden State Warriors team, was taken back to the early 2000s to play the 2001 Lakers, or the 96 Bulls, or the 92 Bulls, or the 86 Celtics, that series will be extremely, extremely competitive, and I will probably have to pick those teams over this Warriors team, but it will be very, very competitive. No, the Warriors would not lose in 5 games like many old-timers like to allege. And on the flip side, No, they would not beat the Bulls or the old school Larry Bird Celtics or the Showtime Lakers in 5 games. It will be very competitive. This is a transcendent team. Great teams are going to be great in any era. The one thing that I will say is that physicality does impact them. When you stop their constant motion, they do get impacted. But what impresses me about Golden State is that their defense is always top notch. And that's what you always have to give them credit for.
And I think the Lakers, I think OKC, I think teams like Houston and others will do that. Will do the same thing to some degree. And obviously, when they make the finals, I think Boston will be waiting for them.
OKC be
physical.
Guys,
Talk about physical.
Utah better notate.
Talk about
OKC.
physical.
One other thing I just want to get your take on real quick. So LeBron's signature mural in Cleveland.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go for the Golden State Warriors. As of right now, I am predicting that they will succeed in their venture to achieve a three-peat and match the 1990 Chicago Bulls, who did it twice, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, who did it, as well as the Bill Russell Celtics, who did it. So the only question will be after this season, presuming that none of the top Golden State Warrior players suffer any level of catastrophic injury after they do win the championship this season, is can they make it 4 straight next year and really set themselves apart from every other team other than the Bill Russell Celtics. But anyway, peace.